This explains why Breeze met secretly with Rack without informing Kanan and why Kanan chose not to immediately call Breeze out on his lie regarding the Taz situation. Perhaps the clearest indication that these two are still learning how to navigate each other came with the surprising Defcon revelation. The Kanan voiceover discussing truth, lies, and deception suggests that Breeze may have fabricated the story about Defcon being Kanan's father, assuming Kanan didn't know the truth and hoping to use that supposed connection to pull him closer into his orbit. Alternatively, maybe the lies referenced in the voiceover were actually coming from Kanan's side, since he knew Defcon wasn't his real father but couldn't reveal that information to Breeze without exposing himself. Either interpretation works, but what's undeniable is that their budding partnership is already steeped in deceit and half-truths. And honestly, if that doesn't perfectly summarize nearly every major male relationship across the entire Power universe, what does? It's a world full of men constantly claiming brotherhood while lying through their teeth whenever it benefits them. Speaking of surprising developments, I never imagined we'd see a young Kanan transform into something of a smooth Don Juan, but that moment finally arrived in this episode, and I was completely unprepared for it. Kanan's interactions with Tiana were ostensibly about gathering intel on Rack's new business ventures, which he successfully did. However, there was clearly something deeper and more personal happening beneath the surface. We've watched Kanan develop feelings for a few girls throughout the series, and the extended intimate scene between him and Tiana didn't feel like pure manipulation for information. It genuinely seemed like he wanted to connect with her on a real level. For some time, I've been curious whether the series would introduce Sean's mother before it concluded, and it finally happened with only a few episodes remaining. On one hand, I expected Jarita to play a larger role in Kanan's story, but reflecting on the original series, she never had a huge presence there either. Learning that she was secretly working for Rack and entered into a relationship with Kanan under false pretenses adds a heartbreaking new layer to their already strained dynamic in adulthood. It helps explain why Kanan always seemed to harbor such deep disdain and emotional distance toward his own son. People in the Power universe are famously known for making terrible, impulsive, and often self-sabotaging decisions that drive much of the drama. Sometimes those choices are so ridiculously bad that they cross into unintentional comedy, providing dark humor for the audience. Other times, the decisions are so short-sighted, destructive, and infuriating that they leave viewers frustrated, shocked, or outright angry at the character's lack of foresight. Episode 4 was packed with one poor decision after another, to the point where describing it as simply poor decision-making almost feels too mild and generous. The long-brewing, high-stakes conflict between Kanan and his mother Rack has been developing across multiple seasons, featuring plenty of dramatic highs and tense lows. However, this latest chapter feels distinctly different and more final because Kanan himself has undergone a major transformation. When the series first began, a young Kanan Stark was nothing like the hardened, ruthless adult we came to know in the original Power series. Naturally, he has grown and changed as the show has progressed, but in this episode we see him coming closest yet to embodying the sociopathic, emotionally detached version of Kanan that fans first encountered. Adult Kanan was a true sociopath who appeared to care about virtually nothing and no one. Viewers can debate whether he ever truly cared about Tariq if they'd like. Feel free to make your case in the comments, but the more we uncover about his traumatic past, the clearer it becomes that he fundamentally lacks the emotional capacity to form genuine, deep attachments to other people. Somewhere along the way, possibly between witnessing his mother kill his father and later killing his own uncle, or even earlier than that, Kanan lost, or never fully developed, the ability to truly care about anyone besides himself. His entire worldview revolves around self-preservation and self-interest above all else. One might be tempted to say this makes him a lot like his mother Rack, but that comparison isn't entirely fair to her. We've seen enough to know that, despite everything, Kanan will always remain Rack's greatest weakness and Achilles' heel. Kanan, on the other hand, doesn't appear to have any such vulnerability. Throughout this episode, Kanan was firmly on a path of destruction and retaliation, making bold, provocative statements through his actions both with his mother and with Taz. If any single character perfectly embodied the episode's theme of disastrous decision-making, it was undoubtedly Taz. One could practically write an entire dissertation analyzing Taz's choices because it remains genuinely baffling what he hoped to achieve or gain from his behavior. Living life on the streets often requires a certain level of bravado, confidence, and an air of superiority to survive and command respect. This approach works well for some characters. Tommy Egan immediately comes to mind as someone who operates with zero humility and somehow still comes out on top. However, not everyone possesses the intelligence, street smarts, or sheer luck needed to get away with saying whatever they want and acting recklessly without consequences. Taz carried himself with an enormous chip on his shoulder, constantly challenging and antagonizing Kanan both publicly and privately, seemingly under the mistaken impression that Kanan would respond in a calm or rational manner. Honestly, what exactly was his problem or endgame? Taz's main issue was with Breeze, and he knowingly tried to pit Breeze against Kanan, stepping right into the trap almost eagerly. In the end, he paid the ultimate price for his arrogance and had no one to blame but himself. It's quite obvious that Breeze enjoys playing manipulative games, testing people's reactions and using them as pawns in his larger schemes. Playing such a dangerous game can easily backfire because most people resent being treated as disposable pieces in someone else's chess match. Yet when dealing with impulsive, hot-headed individuals like Taz, this strategy can unfortunately prove effective in the short term. Taz's death felt inevitable from the very first hostile look he gave Kanan this season. Still, it was somewhat surprising to see the deliberate dismemberment and disposal of his body, as characters in the Power universe don't always go to such great lengths to cover up their crimes. It's fascinating to watch the early stages of the complex relationship forming between Kanan and Breeze, especially given the underlying caution and mutual distrust that still lingers between them. These things have been simmering all season, and things have been said out loud, and there's no turning back from this point forward, putting us in such an exciting and terrifying place as we head into the finale. I would be shocked if we leave this season with all our main characters intact, with she, and everybody but Early and a veterinarian, thought Unique was long gone, no longer a threat on the south side. She and everyone thought wrong. I was starting to worry about how long they would keep Unique hidden because there's only so long you can hide in plain sight. With each move Unique made, he was putting himself out there more and more, and at some point, somebody was going to see him and realize, damn, you look a lot like Unique. Unique would then open his mouth and make a quip about coming back from the dead, and the jig would be up. Since Unique was well enough to take care of himself again, the plan has always been to bring down Rack and take back what he felt was stolen from him, but when you're considered dead for an undetermined amount of time, it means you return to nothing. Unique's initial pitch to Russo didn't get him anything but a headache, but when he returned to him during Power Book 3, Raising Kanan Season 4 Episode 6, he had much more to offer. Unique has always been highly ambitious and intelligent. You could never ascend to the heights he did without those two traits, but since his return, he's been consumed by revenge and unable to see much beyond it. Not only was there no product for Unique, but he didn't have any people either. One thing we've learned throughout all of the Power shows is that you've got to have a plan, and you've got to have a team. Without those two things, you will be DOA. Unique was smart enough to recognize that the only hand he really had to play was to recruit others who hated Rack or, at the very least, would agree to bring her down. That's why he went to Teresa Bozelli in the first place. He played on her grief, and then he got in front of Russo so he could try to play multiple angles. Russo wanted to avenge Sal, but maybe even more than that, Stefano was the kind of boss he would love to be. Unique's initial pitch to Russo didn't get him anything but a headache, but when he returned to him during Power Book 3, Raising Kanan Season 4 Episode 6, he had much more to offer. Unique has always been highly ambitious and intelligent. You could never ascend to the heights he did without those two traits, but since his return, he's been consumed by revenge and unable to see much beyond it. Now, new line. This season is about everyone figuring out what comes next for them, and while the optimism is great, it's starting to feel like the calm before the storm. New line. There were one too many bright spots during Power Book 3, Raising Kanan Season 4 Episode 2, and as we know, in the Power universe, those moments don't tend to last. New line. After the flashbacks that were Power Book 3, Raising Kanan Season 4 Episode 1, this hour was all about diving into the aftermath of Ronnie and Howard's deaths, and for Rack, her main concern was making sure she and her family were no longer on the Fed's radar. New line. Part of the reason Rack killed Howard was because he was never someone she was going to be able to fully trust. He may have wanted to protect her and Kanan, and she may have even wanted to believe that, but at the end of the day, Howard wasn't someone she could depend on. New line. New line. He had Marvin's name in his mouth a little too much, and even though he had helped her in some ways as law enforcement, his threat was more significant than what he could do for her. New line. New line. But she did pull that trigger, not even thinking about what it could mean for Kanan. She once again made a decision that would affect Kanan and had no care or thought about it. New line. New line. Kanan asking his mother whether or not she even knew the difference between right and wrong felt like his way of telling her that she had lost her damn mind and someone he no longer recognized. New line. New line. Obviously, he's been looking at his mother strangely for a long while, but her actions continue to push him further and further away. And maybe worse, while Unique and Kanan are working through their stuff in the flashback, we also glimpse Marvin and Kenan's life. The former takes on a mission from Stefano Marchetti, the New York Godfather, to intimidate Tommaso, his big-shot son-in-law. Tommaso has been running around town cheating on his wife, who is also Stefano's daughter. Marvin is told to rough him up in indirect terms, which he does in an efficient fashion. The New York Godfather is pleased by his work and promises that this will only help him in the future, meaning Stefano is likely willing to answer one of his favors. Meanwhile, Kanan has a strange problem presented to him out of nowhere. His high school research project is still due, and he has to complete it by finding out more about one of his grandparents. After all the drug trading and illegal stuff Kanan has been doing recently, it is hard to remember he is a teenager in high school still. However, the research project storyline helps bring a sense of normalcy to his character for a brief period. We see him go back to his grandma's house, asking to learn more about Grandpa Elijah. Somehow, Kanan can sense a bit of kinship with his late grandfather, who his grandmother describes as someone just like him. The boy goes around interrogating every family member about Elijah's personality and what he was like as a person. Everyone shares something different, Marvin and Lulu included. He refrains from asking his mother because of the distance in their relationship. She tells him that no matter how much he hates her, she will always unconditionally love him. Later, Kanan makes the shocking discovery that his grandmother has cancer and is dying. He is the only one to know, and she urges him not to share the information with her children, fearing that they will make the news about themselves. Meanwhile, Unique sends out Tyler to reckon the situation outside and where everyone stands in the puzzle. The latter returns to inform Unique that Ronnie is working with Kanan, and Rack is back dealing again despite promising to be out. Unique hypothesizes that Kanan and Rack must be in cahoots and likely sent Ronnie after him. Tyler points out that he is making big assumptions, but the man already has his target set. The final parts of the episode take us back to the present day, where Unique takes out his gun and points it toward Ronnie and Howard's dead bodies. He is seemingly now on a collision. It's getting grim, it's getting dark. We're definitely getting to see more of the Kanan that people have seen in the original show. Kanan is locked in a chess game that everybody's playing, in Curtis' words. And that's been Kanan's mindset this whole year too. He doesn't trust anything. Following the drama of the penultimate episode of the season, which aired on May 9th, Erica Woods, Pop, told people that things are definitely going to heat up in the finale, especially given Crystal's shocking death. Pop is really starting to step up and reveal herself to the fans. And I just really think you're going to see a big evolution of Pop from Season 3 to Season 4, Wood teased. People are always saying a snaps and Pop. I think you're going to be hearing a lot more of Pop, and I think it's going to be a lot more of the women and what they're going through and their war. More details and answers to our burning questions. It feels familiar to go through the same environments that have become so resonant with the series, including Café Vause. It has been a regular destination since Season 3's events, providing a deeper insight into Lulu's character and the music scene that is so pivotal to the series. However, it also plays a vital role in fleshing out the world and the era. Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, introduces a number of fictional locales throughout its various seasons. These places either add to the world-building aspect of the series or have an important relation to specific elements of the plot and characters. Café Vause fits more into the second category. It is a fictional club crafted by Sasha Penn, which brings more clarity and depth to Lulu's ongoing storyline of trying to break away from Rack's world. We have known for quite a while that Lulu is tired of living a life dictated by his sister, who is wrapped up in the dangers of the underworld. While he started the series as a loyal foot soldier who does not question anything, he has undergone a radical shift in his thinking and wants to have nothing to do with his family. To that end, Café Vause presents an opportunity to have a life outside Rack's circle. The club was first introduced in Season 3 as a place that needed revitalization. Lulu sees this as a golden opportunity to have something of his own. His previous plans of succeeding with his record company were also motivated by a desire to break the bonds shackling him to his sister. While it didn't work out exactly as planned, Cafe Vals presented another shot at the same dream. However, in Season 3, we see a progressive decline in Lulu's mental state as he struggles with the guilt of his past life and the inability to move forward. He quickly spirals out of control and becomes a liability to the Thomas family and to Rack's needs. In his desperate state, Cafe Vals is one of the few things that helps him longer. All it took was a few small pieces of information about Rack and Kanan to set him on a full-blown revenge tour. And isn't it interesting how easy it is to hear something and then jump to every conclusion in the book to fit the narrative you need to sustain your bloodthirsty anger? Unique was not in his right mind, but he was also hell-bent on getting back at Ronnie and whoever else he felt was responsible for what happened to him. Unfortunately, Rack and Kanan fell into that trap once he started hearing about how they were moving. In a perfect world, Unique would have gone straight to Rack, and they would have formulated a plan together, but who could Unique trust? His own brother wanted him dead, so why would he think that his surprise return would be something anyone would welcome when they got something for themselves now that he was out of the picture? Early was right to tell Unique to wait in the shadows because while it may have seemed like he was down and out, he ultimately did have the upper hand. He could move in silence, find the weaknesses, and pounce when the opportunity arose. In a perfect world, Unique would have gone straight to Rack, and they would have formulated a plan together, but who could Unique trust? His own brother wanted him dead, so why would he think that his surprise return would be something anyone would welcome when they got something for themselves now that he was out of the picture? Early was right to tell Unique to wait in the shadows because while it may have seemed like he was down and out, he ultimately did have the upper hand. He could move in silence, find the weaknesses, and pounce when the opportunity arose. But even knowing all those things doesn't excuse her actions, because Rack has done some messed up stuff. Rack does what she needs to do to survive and protect the people she loves at all costs, but at the same time, she takes away a lot of their agency. She's created dynamics in which the people she loves don't trust or respect her, which eats at her no matter what. When was the last time we had a new hour of Power Book 3 Raising Kanan? It has felt like 47 years since we saw the events of Power Book 3, Raising Kanan Season 3 Episode 10 play out, and I won't lie to you, I needed a refresher course on everything that went down in the bloody finale, so this hour was a blessing in disguise. Instead of picking up where things left off, the series took another route, taking us back in time to relive all the moments we missed leading up to the shocking finale. I wasn't sure what to make of the decision to jump 3 months back, considering we'd already lived through these events, right? And if they were showing us new things now, why were they not included to begin with? Well, the answer to that was pretty damn easy when some of the first images of Power Book 3, Raising Kanan Season 4 Episode 1 we got was of an alive Unique making his way to a pay phone. We all knew Unique was alive, obviously, but the most fascinating part of the whole hour was seeing how he pulled himself from the woods and then eventually managed to make it to that abandoned warehouse over the course of 3 months. We all knew Unique was a fighter, but he was possessed by the spirit of betrayal and revenge when he willed himself to that pay phone. He was lucky someone was there to answer the call because he wouldn't have made it otherwise. Early was hilarious and a welcome addition to the season already. He was primarily motivated by self-interest, but he was also the only reason Unique got better, and the two of them should make for an interesting little duo. For starters, this was not the same Unique we knew in the past. Unique was always about his business and getting what he felt he deserved, but we also saw his walls break down when he and Rack started their little love affair because the two had much more in common than they ever gave much thought to. Rack often kept Unique at a distance during Power Book 3, Raising Kanan Season 3, whereas Unique seemed to be more invested, in the sense that you could see his feelings more in his actions and words than you could with Rack. When Unique died, Rack had a moment or two to mourn what could have been, but she also didn't dwell on it much and kept it moving, which could be the